So, this is a very strange looking thing. I wonder what it could be. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly vlog for March the 14th, 2022, vlog number 256, and it's day 734 of COVID. So let's jump right into what I've been working on. You have seen this before. This is the Strong and Free quilt. It's the one I had a lot of problems with getting the pattern, as you remember. I told you that whole story of woe. It is also the pattern had a lot of mistakes in it, and I did some more investigation after I got this done and found out, yes, the person who put this pattern together had a whole thing about the errors and the corrections. There were a lot. I kick myself now because I probably should have checked to see if there was such a thing, but I didn't. And so this is what the final version turned out to be. Now, it looks okay, but as the creator of this, I know there are problems with it. I'm not going to point them all out to you right now. I'm going to save that for the next edition or episode of The Idiot Quilter, but there are mistakes. I am just glad it is done because I'm going to live by the saying, better done than perfect on this one. And, you know, it was a bit of a disappointment to me because I was looking so forward to creating this. And yes, to the average person, it looks fine, I'm sure. But to me, it was a failure. Simple as that. So if you want to know why I say that, check out The Idiot Quilter tomorrow when it comes up on YouTube, and you'll hear my explanation of that more fully. Now, something though that I think has been very successful is, you know, that Walter and I at the end of this month are going to a retreat, first one in over 2 years, because of COVID, of course, and it's being sponsored by our local quilt store, Ultimate Sewing. And we are also part of the entertainment, so we need some costuming, and so we're working on those. And yesterday on Stephen and Walter Live, I gave you a sneak preview of what we are creating and how we're creating it. And I'm going to say more about that on the Idiot Quilter because that's something that's more appropriate to the Idiot Quilter, I think, than necessarily to my vlog. But one thing I do want to share with you are our fascinators that I've just finished making. So here's Walter's fascinator. Yeah, I know, funny picture. But I found these little Irish hats at the dollar store, and I decided to, dress them up a little bit. So that's one of the fascinators, and the other one's very much the same. Yeah, don't I look thrilled to have that on? That'd scare you in the middle of the night, wouldn't it? But they're just fun, and you'll notice that they go on your head with those, whatever you want to call them. I call them Beely Bopper holders, but you know, and I don't know if those will stay on there. I can remove them. It's going to depend. We have wigs that these will be going on top of, and we have to figure out what holds them the best. These are fairly light, so I think I can just clip them to the wigs and get rid of those little things hanging down the side of my face. Yeah, if these are a little better than the first ones that I made, and I'm going to show those a little later on. I used my 3D printer, and well, I made really heavy ones, but I'll show you the comparison of those a little bit later on in the video. Okay, so back to me. All right, have some coffee. I thought you needed a little bit of humor first thing in the day, whether you watch this during the day or in the evening, I don't know. For me, it's the first part of the day. So that takes me to the YouTube channel of the week. This one I stumbled upon by accident, and it's really good. And it's by a Canadian, which makes it, for me, even better. And it's called DottoTech. And, well, here's my review of DottoTech. This week's YouTube of the week is one that I came across by accident. And actually, most of the YouTube channels I review, I come upon come upon by accident. And this was one, and I found it really fascinating. It popped up on recommended videos for me, and oftentimes that will happen to you. And, you know, if you've got the time, why not check them out? So that's what I did with DottoTech. DottoTech, the video that I saw was showing you things that you probably didn't know about Google Maps. And it was absolutely fascinating. Google Maps does a heck of a lot more than just show you how to get someplace. There's a lot of other things. And this gentleman that runs this YouTube channel, that's what he was showing me. And so it led me to explore more of his videos. And I'll show you some of the videos that he has up. Now, I haven't watched all of these yet, but I have them in my subscribed list. I've subscribed to this site, and I think it's going to be very useful. He says, can I recall a sent email in Gmail? Top 10 Gmail tips and tricks. How do I attach a document to Gmail? So he's got a lot of stuff here about Gmail. He seems to be someone who's very interested in Google products. Has your account been hacked? How do I add a signature to Gmail? So if you use Gmail, and many people do, you might want to check this out. But he also has other videos about like Wi-Fi without spending a dime, setting up your Apple Watch, how to create shared and public calendars, etc. If we go to his playlist, where we'll see probably a better organization of the things he's talking about, we have Gmail tips, Google Meet, video conferencing apps, Zoom video conferencing, Google Photos, YouTube Live, live streaming and video, just a whole lot of technical things that you may be interested in. I know I am. So the next time I'm looking for some advice or some help on a technical issue, I think I'll go to DottoTech. So you will find the link for DottoTech in the show notes below. You'll find a link for Stephen and Walter Live. That particular episode of Stephen and Walter Live, we got a little bit carried away talking about quilting and sewing and our creations and things, but we did talk about a few other things as well. So if you're not a regular viewer of Stephen and Walter Live, you might want to check it out just to see what we're all about. And there's the latest edition of So Chatty. We talked about batting because that was requested by one of our viewers. We are not experts about batting. I did talk about a chart that you can get that tells you all about the different types of batting, at least the ones manufactured by Hobbs Batting, which is one of the major manufacturers of batting. And we talked about a couple of other things as well on that edition. And on the Idiot Quilter, episode 157, yeah, that's a variety of all kinds of things that are quilting related, sewing related. So let's take a look outside and see what it's like today. Now on the weekend, excuse me, our clocks went ahead here in Ontario. So it's a little darker in the morning when I get up. I usually get up around 6 o'clock. But it's going to stay lighter a little longer in the evening. You know, really, the concept of turning our clocks back and whatnot and forward, spring ahead, fall back, I guess that's how you remember it. Our government, our Ontario government, has put a thing out saying that if New York State and Quebec would get rid of, what is it? Is it daylight savings time that we're on, or is it standard time? No, I think it's daylight savings time that we've gone ahead to. If they would get rid of it, we'd get rid of it. Because really, it isn't necessary to have that. And while I'm talking, let me show you what I'm looking at outside. There we go. So I took this picture at 7:23 this morning. Yeah, so you can see the sun is just coming up at that time. In old time, that would actually be 6:23 in the morning. But so, yeah, as I said, we don't really need daylight savings time anymore. I did hear, but I think it's an urban legend, that when they first initiated that, it was for the farmers, so they could get more work in during the day or something like that. But then I've heard other things that people say it was put in place because of the World War I or whatever, rationing electricity or something. I don't know what the story is for sure. Probably should research it. But anyways, I don't think it's something we need anymore. And a lot of people, it really bothers them for a few days in terms of their sleeping. Um, you know, so, and actually, I do see that as a problem because it's been bothering me a little bit too. Um, for some reason, I want to stay in bed a little longer. Because I feel a little tired. So I don't know if it's that or maybe it's sad, seasonal. What does that stand for? Seasonal something deprivation, something like that, whatever. Happens this time of the year as well, or just plain cabin fever. In fact, we do have cabin fever, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that shortly. But anyways, that's what it looks like outside my window this morning. You can see we've had a little bit more snow as well. Yes, people are now talking about spring, and technically the first day of spring is coming up very soon, March the 21st, so in a week's time. This time next week's first day of spring. But here where we live, it'll probably still be snowy. So yeah, spring's a ways away from it all, but we're all, wishing it was warmer days, aren't we? So anyways, that's what it looks like outside my window this morning. Okay, so that takes me to what's pissing me off this week, the banking system. Now, I know this is not unique. We are all bunged out by the banking system. They're the one corporation in the world that really owns the world. Because they own the money. They control the money. And they control your money. If you deal with a bank, and pretty much we all have to deal with a bank, in one form or the other, we can't keep our money in a sock underneath our mattress anymore, all that kind of thing. We're really at their whim. And, it's legalized robbery is the way I look at it, because the banks are very willing to take our money, but they give us nothing back in return. There was a day and age when you could get, high yield savings accounts. You'd get some interest. Well, that's not true anymore. I know with my mother, when we sold our house, our family house, and she went into the nursing home, she dropped a big chunk of change into the bank. And I put it into what I thought was, well, it was actually called an investment account, but it was supposed to pay a good amount of interest every month. And it did. She had over $200,000 in that account. And she was getting over like 170 to 200, a little over $200 a month interest on that money. By the time she passed away, she was only getting less than $10 a month on the same amount of money, because we hadn't dipped into that fund at all. I had a checking account for her that looked after her everyday expenses and things like that, and I was able to maintain that at a certain level whereby I didn't really need to dip into this other account. I called it her house money, in a sense. And the whole idea here was that it would grow with interest in that. And, at the time, I kind of thought my mother would, she was a young woman when she went into the nursing home, kind of a thing. She was under 80 at the time. And, you figure your parents are going to live forever, right? And I wanted to make sure that there would always be money there that would provide for her forever. And that's why I put it in that kind of account. But, the banks, no. And, the banks here in Canada, but the banks anywhere in the world, they make billions upon billions of dollars on our money. Because quite frankly, if it wasn't for our money, banks couldn't exist. So there they are. They have our money and they're using it. They're making money from our money and we're making nothing off it. But back to my point about the problems I'm having with the bank. You know that I've been trying to get my mother's estate all settled out. Basically my inheritance and my brother and my sister's inheritance. It's a fair chunk of change that each one of us are going to get. However, it is taking a lot longer than I figured with the bank. And the woman I'm dealing with at the bank is starting to get on my nerves. She's been very nice, but very ineffectual. she keeps telling me, I keep asking her, okay, what's the latest on the status on my mother's account? What I'm saying is, when is it that I can get my filthy little paws on the money and distribute it to my siblings and get that all done? Yeah, well, she doesn't know why it's being delayed by head office, but she'll get right on that and check with them. I hear that all the time. I have been dealing with the bank about this since November the 17th, 2021. This is now March the 14th, 2022. That's 4 bloody months. I mean, I knew it was going to take some time. I figured, though, going through the probate court was going to be the thing that was going to take the most time. It didn't. It took about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I was expecting it to be months because, the courts, at least the courts here, are backed up because of COVID and everything else. Courts are always backed up. So I was anticipating, and even the lawyer told me this, pretty much figure on 6 to 8 weeks, which I thought was actually being very positive about that. But no, they had it all cleaned up way before Christmas. Meanwhile, I'm still waiting for the bank. Now, my mother's accounts are not complicated. 2 accounts, a checking and a savings. That's it. Nothing more. She did have an investment account. I did take some of her house money and I invested a little bit of it to make some more money on dividends. But before she passed away, and when the writing was kind of on the wall that, she may not last as long as we thought, Walter recommended to me, because he is my financial advisor, he said, maybe you should collapse those, sell the shares and put the money into her, savings account kind of a thing. Because he said, if by chance she passes away, that's going to delay everything further because they'll have to sell the shares and there'll be, all kinds of stuff. So I took his advice, and I'm glad I did. And I sold all of her shares before she actually passed away. So that is nothing. That's not holding this up because there's nothing in those accounts. They're dead. Pardon the pun, whatever. Okay. So only 2 simple accounts. And yet I have been to the bank 3, 4, 5 times to sign this, sign that, sign this, that, and everything. Got to make an appointment every time you do this stuff, too. And they don't make it easy to make an appointment these days. I can't just call up the branch and say, hi, I'd like to make an appointment to do this, that, and the other thing. No. You have to go through a 1-800 number. And you get some lackey on the other end. Of course, you go through a menu system, 5,000 different questions they ask you with that. And then you get the dreaded message, hi, we're experiencing an increase in volume here. Your call's important to us. Please hold the line and someone will be with you shortly. And 30 minutes later, you might get somebody who then hasn't got a bloody clue what to do. When you say, this is what I want to do, they go, oh. And then they ask you 50,000 questions, too. Really efficient. Think about it. These are institutions that have our money. We are trusting them with our money. And they have this kind of system. At least here in Ontario, they do. So, not impressed, but you wade through it. I've been patient. Lately, I've been sending this person at the bank who's looking after this an email saying, hi, how are you? I'm just wondering what's happening with my mother's estate account. And I get this answer. Oh, yes, it's still in head office. I will check into that for you and get back to you before the end of the week. Thank you for your patience. No, my patience is about to run out with this bitch. Okay. I am giving her until this Wednesday coming, 2 days. She's supposed to get back to me middle of the week. Wednesday's middle of the week about that. If I hear nothing, if I hear nothing by lunchtime, Wednesday, I will send her another email. This email is no longer going to be nice because I'm going to say to her, what's happening? I'm very disgruntled or something to that effect. Barring bad language. I won't use bad language with her or anything like that. But I'm going to put it really firmly there that if this does not get rectified now, Now, I am making an appointment with the bank manager to talk about what's going on with this situation. In other words, her boss. And let's see if that puts a fire into her. Because this is absolutely ridiculous. I feel like I'm being held hostage. You know, that my mother's account is up for ransom or something like that. Come on. Now, I can tell you one thing. Once I do get my grubby little paws on all this money, I will be immediately distributing my sister's share to her, and she deals with a different banking system. I'll distribute my brother's share to him. I got to check out what banking system he works with. And I will be taking my money and withdrawing the whole thing out of that bank and putting it into my account in my bank. Now, am I suggesting that maybe my bank is better? Not really. Not really. They're all the same. But I am not dealing with this particular bank. Well, one, it's not even in my town. So why bother? And I've never had an account with this bank before. My mother always dealt with that. So, yeah. So, it's just pissing me off. Because, like I said last week when I was talking about customer service, this is another prime example of the lack of customer service. Oh, yes, they talk nice to you, but you know, talk is cheap. Actions say more than words. So get your act together and let's get this solved, finished. I've even thought about, we'll see, of sort of threatening her that I'm going to go to my lawyers and look into this. Not that that's going to put any fear into her or into the bank, because the bank's own lawyers. You know, I'm small, very, 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 very on the scale of being for bank. I'm way down here. Way down here. I'm nothing. I'm like an ant to a human, you know, kind of thing. I'm the ant. So anyways, yeah, we'll see what happens this week. Of course, on the other good news, as a little sidebar here, my email, which I've been fighting with my provider, Bell Canada, for over 2 weeks with, trying to get the problem I was having fixed, mysteriously fixed itself. Makes you wonder. But I'm not going to complain. That's great. I'm happy about that now. Okay. So, enough about what's pissing me off this week. Banks. It's illegal to blow them up, but you really wish you could. Okay, so, product review. Well, I did get all the rulers that I need now for this Mariner's Compass. I'm just going to show you what that looks like. Yeah, this is the current picture. Anyways, let's go here. So what you see here is all the stuff I need to make a Mariner's Compass quilt. A fairly complicated quilt to make, and this is supposed to make my life easier. And what you see in front of you represents about $200 worth of pattern books and specialty rulers for this. So this is an investment here before you even get started. So I will have to go through and study this. Luckily, there are also videos that Robin Ruth, who's the creator of this system, has put up on YouTube that are very, very clear, very well done, because I've watched a few of them. So this is going to be a major project. I'm not sure when I'll get started on it, but this is going to be a project that's going to take me, the year, probably, to do this. We'll see. But I've got everything ready ready to go. I just have to, well, start working on it. So that's coming up. I went for a little shopping spree at Ultimate Sewing this week, and I picked up this Trimmer by George 2.0. This is by the Hoop Sisters. Now, unless you are in the hoop embroidery quilt maker, this won't mean much to you. But essentially what this does is allows you to trim away layers of the blocks you make in the hoop in your embroidery machine so that they're cut the right length and everything for putting the blocks together. It's kind of hard to explain it. It's one of those things you really need to see how to do. But the reason I'm showing you this particular ruler is because this was very hard to get. At least I thought it was going to be very hard to get. I went on Amazon. They didn't have it. I think they did have it at one point, but it said it was out of stock and they didn't know when it would be back in stock. I went to the hoopsisters.com to their website, and they don't sell it on the website, I don't think. It looked like you had to go to one of their dealers. They sell it wholesale, I guess, to various quilt stores. I found it in one place in the States, but the shipping and the exchange rate was astronomical for it. I checked some Canadian stores. There were a few that did have it, but they were out of stock. Didn't know when they were going to get it again. And I even checked on the website for Ultimate Sewing, my own local quilt store, not expecting to find it, and I didn't. So when I was in the store on the weekend, because they were having a sale, I'm going to talk more about that on the Idiot Quilter as well, show you my $300 haul. I was looking through their ruler section, and lo and behold, they had a bunch of these. I grabbed one immediately and purchased it. So now I have a Trimmer by George 2.0. Now, of course, someone's going to tell me on here, but I already know this, that they are coming out with a Trimmer by George 3.0, and I'm not sure what the difference is, but I don't care. This will do will serve the purpose that I have bought it for. So anyways, I got that, and I'm happy that I did. You know, I should have just gone to Ultimate Sewing in the first place, because this has happened to me before. I assume, and you should never make an assumption, should you, that they're not going to have something like that because it's too much of a specialty item. Yeah, no, they often have it. You know, check there first. Okay, so that takes me to the 3D corner. And what have I been making? Well, I talked about the fascinators that I made on the 3D printer. Now, ignore the little bucket that's underneath this fascinator. That was just there holding it up because it's got one of those bands on it, you know, that fit over your head to hold it there. This was my first effort at making a fascinator. I created a disc. You can't really see it. It's underneath this crocheted doily thing that I had in my stash. Actually, I think that was made by, well, I know it was made by my grandmother, actually. I have a bunch of her things that I want to turn into quilts. But this was one of her crocheted doilies, and I glued it to a base. The base I made on the 3D printer, and you wouldn't think it would be that heavy because it's fairly thin plastic, just a circle of plastic. But with the combination of all these things that are on top of it, this is very heavy. This big spool of thread, very, very heavy. And this pincushion is kind of heavy too. So adding up all of these things on here, yeah, you couldn't wear it on your head. At least to keep it on your head. It was going to fall off. So I kind of scrapped that, and I created the fascinators that you saw earlier that Walter and I were modeling for you. And here they are again. And you know, quite frankly, I like this version of the fascinators better than the first version I made. And they're a lot lighter. A lot lighter. So yeah, that's what I was doing on the 3D printer without much success. What am I doing on the 3D printer right now? I'm making Albert Einstein. I'm making a bust of him. Why? Because I can. Kind of a thing. Yeah, toys for big boys, right? Said it many times before. Okay, so that takes me to a blast from the past. Another one in my series of trips to Australia. From this series is on 2018. And that was our second trip to Australia. And this is Melbourne Day 5, Part 2. You saw the first part last week, I believe, of some museums, and now you're going to see a little bit more of Melbourne in this video.
So this is the old jail in Melbourne, and we're just going to do something called the Watch House Experience, where I think they basically arrest us and torture us. So that could be fun. I'm just taking a picture of inside of a cell. Not a lot of room in them. About that. Yeah, not.
It's just like being married. Ball and chain.
So we're waiting here for the watch house experience. This is the meeting point, and apparently we're going to be arrested, and oh, I hope there's torture involved. Ooh, officer, beat me, beat me. Look, Walter's all excited and giggly now, all over the all over the idea that he might get chained up. Ooh. So this is the holding part of the prison where people were processed before they were put into a cell, and we're doing the experience. So in this we were locked up in one of these rooms with about 10 to 12 other people, and lights turned out, and apparently the toilets do not flush in the cell, they flush from outside, so you could be in here all night, and I guess it was considered a privilege if you got your toilet flushed. And this is the padded cell. So on this one, they would put violent ones, crazies.
Bashed his head open against the floor, cracked his skull open. Christ, mate, I'm a cop. I can handle grins, not nutters.
Oh look, there's Walter. They let him out.
Start finishing up with the photos in here.
He's locking us away.
Tracy loves to.
Look, Warburton.
So what have I been up to in the past week? Well, what I have been up to is doing a class. Yes, I'm taking a class through Ultimate Sewing. Had to think about that for a minute. Had a bit of a brain fart. And it's online. It's with Donna, the hostess with the mostest, as you've heard me mention her before. And it's a block of the month. I've never really done a block of the month before. But when I saw this quilt, and let me show it to you. Here it is. It's called Lakeside by Willington Fabrics. And this is what the final quilt will look like. But as I said, it's a block of the month. So we have been concentrating right now in the Zoom class on this little center section here. And I'm going to show that to you in just a moment. But this is a fairly complex quilt to create because it takes templates and you have to make the templates. yourself. And I have shied away from doing those kind of quilts before. But I really like this quilt. Those aren't my colors, as you'll see. Yeah, I thought, okay, let's give it a go. It's a bit of a challenge, and that's okay. Got to do these things. And really, using the templates is not as hard as I thought it might be, or making them either. I mean, it's a little bit tedious, and you have to make them, but I got that down. I've got it, what do you call it, a procedure for doing that. So it works out okay. So I'll show you here what, I just find my, okay, this is the block of the month, as I was saying, and this is my color scheme. There are 17 different fabrics in this total quilt. So they're bits and pieces, but nevertheless, there's 17 of them. And this is what I decided on. Yes, it's kind of wild. It is bold, but that's my style. And I got the first block done over the weekend. And I'm really proud of my points. If you look at my points on this, they are pretty much perfect everywhere. And in the center section in here, there was a piece that, a circle, that the instructions told you to cut out and to applique here in the center. I'm not doing that because I don't like the look of the circle in the center. And I think they actually created it because they figured people would have problems getting those points in the center perfectly in place. There could be a slight gap or they'd be a little bit off, and that this was a way to disguise it. No, mine came out perfect. I am proud of that. I am. I don't care who hears it. I am proud of that. And even Walter could not find a mistake in this block, and he looked. So, you know, that right there puts it up on another level altogether. If Walter can't find a mistake, because he always can, then this must be good. So yeah, I'm really pleased with the way it's turned out, and I'm looking forward to the next installment of this block of the month kind of quilt. I think it's going to be a gorgeous quilt when it's done. Okay. I'm having a little technical difficulties this morning, and it has nothing to do with the technology. It has everything to do with me. I'm pushing the wrong buttons, okay? All right, so what's coming up? Well, besides the retreat, but that's 2 weeks away yet, and we're madly getting our stuff together for that. In fact, later today, I've got to go through what I've set aside as being the projects I'm taking with me and working on. Well, I found a pattern on the weekend I like better for one of the projects, so I'm waiting to get it, actually. I bought it online, and they're supposed to send me the link probably today at some point to download the PDF pattern, and then I can plan for it. But anyways, what else is coming up this week? Well, nothing really. Same old, same old. It is March break here in Ontario for the school kids. So the little disease bags have all taken off with their parents to warmer climes because, you know, in Ontario, we've lifted some of the restrictions. We're lifting most of the restrictions come the 21st of March. That's the first day the kiddies are back from March break to go back to school. And one of those restrictions they're lifting is mandatory mask wearing by the kids in school. Mistake. We talked about that yesterday at Stephen and Walter Live. So I'm anticipating that we're going to have about 2 to 3 weeks after the kids are back into school again from the March break. We're going to have new outbreaks. Yeah, because they're little disease keepers. But, you know, what can we do about it? We just sit and wait. And as such, Walter and I were talking. And we think we want to go away on a little vacation, probably in about July. Depends on how things are in July. We're not going to fly. We would dearly love to fly out west or fly to Newfoundland. We've never been to Newfoundland. But there's 2 ways to get to Newfoundland. You can drive there, but then you have to book passage on a ferry, and that ferry is like an overnight ferry to get to Newfoundland, kind of a thing. And I have heard that, you know, the crossing is not that smooth on the way over, depending on the weather conditions at the time. However, we could fly too, but we're neither one of us are at this point are we comfortable with flying, because I mean basically you're in a tin can breathing everybody else's germs, right? No matter whether you got a mask on or not a mask on. So we're not comfortable with that idea. So we're thinking, and it's just a thought at the moment. As I said, there's so many factors here yet that have to be considered, of driving out to the East Coast. We haven't been out to the East Coast of Canada in, whoa. Do I dare say the last time we were at the East Coast was about 1986? Yeah, I think so. Holy crap. That's almost 40 years ago. Wow. How time flies when you're having fun. So we would drive out there maybe, and, you know, since we're not on anybody's time schedule except our own, go out and explore it a little bit more. This would be a different kind of trip for us than it was in 86, because in 86 we were in our 20s. We were looking for a party everywhere, around every corner, and we weren't really finding too many parties out in the East Coast, and that's probably why we never went back again, because although it's beautiful and very historic, it was very boring for 20-somethings. For 60-somethings, I think it's just the right pace. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we're thinking about that. Walter's going to do some research, as he always does, about, you know, places to stay, things we should see, and all that kind of thing. So we'll see. It's kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel that we're reaching towards, you know. We're hesitant. We're somewhat scared still, because we still have, you know, COVID paranoia there as well. But at the same time, you got to live your life too, to a certain extent. So if we do this, and depending what the situation is like at that time, we will be very, very cautious. Very, very cautious. Like, we will stay away from where there might be very large groups of people. We will take our masks with us and everything. And, you know, we'll just be careful about the whole thing. Hopefully. And, you know, we've had a lot of hope, and we've been let down over time as well through this whole pandemic thing. Hopefully, things will be much better at that time. So anyways, so that's down the road quite a ways, but, you know, something to look towards, I guess. Now, one thing that I haven't discussed in any of the videos lately, and I'm not going to get into discussion of it, but I don't want you to think that I'm cold-hearted. I really feel for the Ukrainian people right now. I also feel for the Russian people, the average people, because the average Russian does not want to be part of this horrible thing that their dictator is putting on to the Ukrainian people and the world at large as well, because it is affecting the world as well. We feel for the Ukrainian people. I know that our Canadian government is going to streamline the immigration process and allow Ukrainian people who want to come here and live in Canada to do so with as little hassle as possible. And I'm all for that. I think we are a very, very large country. We have lots of room. I really think in this we need to open our doors to the Ukrainian people. You may have wondered why I said that I sympathize with the Russian people. I do, because I do not believe that the average Russian person is out for blood here. That's not, they're people like us too, you know. They just have this horrible neo-Naziist dictator, very Stalin in his way of doing things. He's crazy. He's really, really crazy. And it's the crazy people in this world who do a lot of damage, isn't it? And when I say crazy people, I mean crazy dictator, like shoot them all dead kind of dictator. I'm not talking about people that have mental health issues. That's something different completely. So, yeah. So I feel for the Ukrainian people. And, you know, like everybody else, our hearts go out to them. And I know that our government, at least, is doing the right thing by supporting Ukrainians in the ways that, you know, politically and economically they can. So that's all I want to say about that, because, you know, that in itself, do we need more of this on top of COVID? No, we don't. Okay, so that's it for me today, because I'm starting to ramble. And thanks for joining me. And we'll see you next week. And check out Idiot Quilter this week and what other things that I may put up as well. Have a great week. Bye for now.